Hello everyone, welcome to Civil Engineering and Stuff. And in today's video lecture, we will be discussing about the river training works. Now, in the previous lecture, we have discussed about the behavior of the river, where we have discussed about the technical terms that are bends, the meandering, cutoffs, and other technical terms that are related to the movement of water across as the water moves in the river. Now, this is very much clear to all that as a human, we are relied upon the local water body to fulfill our water needs. Now, the water need can be to fulfill our daily water requirements, the water required to do our daily necessity things, and apart from that, the water to be utilized for irrigation purpose. Again, the water has to be required for, and for that we again is dependent upon the local water bodies. And generally, this local water body is the nearest river that flows. So suppose, let's say, there is this population that is living near this water body, and the water to fulfill their daily water requirements, it can be in the form of drinkable water, it can be in the form of water required for irrigation or XYZ purposes. This population is relied on this river. Apart from that, it may be a scenario that there is another population that is residing at the other end of the river, and we need to connect both the populations. And so, for that, we need to construct a bridge. We need to construct a bridge to cross this river. So, there are a lot of structures like bridge and irrigation structures that are constructed to ease out the movement of water from the natural water source to the desired population. That is the general idea for construction of the various irrigation structures and the other structures. Now, you see, this is the one part of the story. The other part is, and the challenge that a irrigation engineer or a structural engineer faces, right? The movement of the river is not constant. It keeps on varying through the course of time. And we have seen in the previous lecture when we were discussing about the meandering that there is always movement of the silt particles as the water moves across the body, and because of which the river keeps on changing its course. And mind it, we are not talking about 1 year or 2 year phenomena. This is a long-term phenomena. It can be maybe in the terms of 50 years, 100 years, and the population usually resides in a city or in a town or in a village for like more than 100 years, right? And if we construct any structure, any irrigation structure or any structural engineer, keeping in mind the present scenario, that is, let's say if this is the present alignment of the river, and we construct, let's say, irrigation structure right at the different sections of this river, or we construct a bridge right at this part of the river based upon the present alignment. Then subsequently, if the overall course of the river remains unchecked, then what will happen is during the course of time, the river will change its course. And you can see this is a picture that taken from the satellite from in the due course of time. And if you observe, if we have constructed a bridge here, then during a certain time period, this bridge would have been total waste, as the river would have changed its cross sections over the time, right? So here the river training work comes into play. The overall aim of the river training work is to ensure that the river moves in a certain designated path. Right? That is the overall purpose of the river training work. The river training work covers all the engineering work which are constructed on a river so as to guide and confine the flow of river channel and to control and regulate the river bed configuration, ensuring safe and effective disposal of flood and sediment loads. Got it? So, like we were discussing here, that if unchecked, the river will is liable to change its course over the course of time. So, whatever engineering structures that we construct over the river, And the purpose of the engineering structure is to guide the flow of the river. That is, the river should flow in a certain path, confine the flow of the river. That if this is the path in which the river is flowing with a certain volume, we confine the flow to this area only, and with this try to have the flow at that maximum volume only. We want to control and regulate the riverbed configuration, and we have discussed about the silting and scoring phenomena in the previous lecture, right? So if we want to control the silting and scoring configuration so that the minimum flow can be maintained in the river, as well as the flow of the river do not cross the maximum value, so that we can ensure a safe and effective disposal of flood and sediment loads. So all these need structure that deals with these are what we call as the river training work. Okay, so here, if we are discussing about the river training work, the key point is that river training work are the engineering works that are done over the river. Why? The purpose is the purpose is to guide the river, to confine the flow of the river, to control and regulate the riverbed, and to ensure the safe and effective disposal of the flood and sediment loads. So these, if and when, if you are asked about the river training work, these are the technical terms that should be there in your definition. The engineering work, the purpose of engineering work to guide and confine the flow of the river channel, control and regulate the riverbed configuration, and safe and effective disposal of flood and sediment load. Okay, so these are the technical terms that should be there in one way or the another in your definition. So this is what the river training work is. I hope this basic concept about the river training work is clear to you, right? So, what are the objectives of the river training work? The objectives of the river training work can be summarized into five different points. The first point is to prevent the river from changing its course and avoid overflowing of the structures. As we have seen in the image before, that if unchecked, the river will definitely change its course because of the meandering phenomena, and we have discussed about the meandering phenomena in the previous lecture. So the objective of the river training work, the first objective is that it we have to prevent the river from changing its course and overflaking of the structure. So if any structure is there, we do not want to decrease the utility of the structure. The structure should be there, fulfill its purpose. We do not want the overflooding of the river. So we want the another aim of river training work is that it want to prevent the flooding of the river. The third point is to prevent river banks from deflecting the river away from the attached banks. That is more or less same as your the first one, that we do not want the river to change its course. If we want to further micro explain this first point, we do not want the banks of the river to deflect from what has already been the course that has already been decided, so that the nearby population can keep on utilizing the water source efficiently. The fourth point is to ensure effective disposal of sediment loads. Now we have over and over again, if you have been regularly watching the previous videos in this channel, you will see that we have over and over discussed about the silting and scoring phenomena, right? And that is the major problem that as an irrigation engineer you want to control. You want to neither have too much silting, neither too much scoring, right? So, and again, in the previous lectures, we have discussed that as an irrigation engineer, you do not want too much silting, too much scoring, but yes, there will be certain silting and scoring, no matter how efficient you design a channel. If you go into too much quality control, there will be too much cost that will be incurred that may surpass the benefit of the irrigation structure that you are going to get, right? So you allow certain amount of silting, you allow certain amount of scoring, but that should be under your control, right? And whatever sediments load that is there, then you can create another structure to to ensure that whatever silting or the scoring that is happening, that is within our control, and whatever extra sediment that is being collected, that can be effectively disposed of. So that is again the purpose of the river training work. And the fifth point is to provide the minimum water depth required for navigation. Now, Yes, of course. If the nearby water body is being used as a waterways, then you do not want at any point of time to reduce the water level from a minimum depth, because you want the ship or the boats to be afloat at all the time, right? So that is again the purpose of the river training work, that it ensures that the minimum depth required for the ships or the boats, uh, that is, if whatever the case may be, that should be there in the water should always be there throughout the year in the river. Okay, so these are the 5 points of the river training work. What are the different types of river training work? Broadly speaking, the river training work can be classified into three different types. Okay, in which the first type is the high water training or training from discharge. The first classification of river training work is type 1, which is high water training or training for discharge. Now, this type of water training, the aim of this kind of water training is to do the flood control. Okay. Now, training here, what do we mean by the word training? That is, we are constructing certain structures over the river. Okay. This training means that through these structures, we are trying to control the behavior of the river. That is, we are training the river to behave in a certain way. So, if you are talking about the high water training, this means we are talking about in general certain structures that will be used to mitigate the flood behavior of the river. Okay, so this training here means that through some structures we are trying to control the behavior of the river. Okay, so the type one or the first type of river training work is high water training or the training of discharge. The aim of this kind of training work is for the flood control. That is, we want to achieve a sufficient river cross section for the safe passage of maximum flood. So definitely that if there is a river that is there in any area, definitely there will be certain rainfall, right? And because of which the overall depth of water may rise from a certain level to a high flood level. That is a practical scenario that happens. Now, what we want is no matter what the how much the water increases, that is whatever be the maximum amount of flood level that can be achieved, we have that provision to discharge this excess quantity of water from that river. Okay, so that there is no problem with from the flood. Got it. So that is what the high water training or the training for the discharge do, right? These structures that can be used for this are like dikes, leaves, etc., which we are going to discuss in the subsequent video lectures. Now, the second type of river training work is low water training or training for depth. The aim of low water training or training for depth is to ensure the minimum depth of flow. The aim is to ensure the minimum depth of flow in river. Why it is required? This is required to ensure that minimum water is available for the ship or the boats or whatever the case may be in the river, even at the low water period. Okay, so if and when if there is a river, if there is a river that is being used by the ships for the movement, through low water training or training for depth, we want to ensure that whatever be the minimum quantity that is required for the ease of navigation, that should always be there. Now, then we have the third type of river training work, and that is mean water training or training for depth. Okay, third is mean water training or training for depth. The aim of mean water training or training for depth is to ensure that there is sufficient disposal of suspended load and bed load, thus keeping the channel in good shape. And it is the most important criteria. And using this type 3 river training work, The other two, type 1 and type 2, are decided. Okay, I'm again repeating. The type 3 is the mean water training or training for depth. Now here also you see in second also there is training for depth, and in type 3 also there is training for depth, right? But type 3 has a different aim of that we want to achieve than the type 2, right? So it is very important that you know what each of the type of river training work aim is achieved. We have type 1, type 2, and type 3. Type 3 is the most important, also called as the mean water training or training for depth. The aim is that whatever sediments we have over and over discussed about the silting and scoring phenomena, right? And no matter how efficient you design a channel, there will always be scoring of the bed and silting of the bed, right? That is, the sediments will be scoured and sediments will be deposited because of the movement of water in the river. As an irrigation engineer you can do is you can control this phenomena, and whatever sediments, excess quantity of sediments that are there in the moving water, whatever be the excess quantity of sediments that are there, you can design a structure that ensures that these sediments are effectively disposed of over the time. Okay, these sediments are effectively disposed, and that is whatever structures that deals with this kind of work comes under the type 3, that is mean training work or the training for depth. It is the most important. Okay, so I'm just going to repeat again. We have three kind of river training works. Type 1, high water training or training for discharge. This deals with the flood control. We have low water training. Type 2 river training work is the low water training or training for depth, that deals with the minimum water depth for navigation of the to ensure the proper navigation in the river, especially during the low tides or during the low water period. Then we have the mean water training or training for depth. Again, a point to be noted. Type 2 can also be type 2 also aims for the training for depth. Type 3 also aims for the training for depth. But the aim is different. For type 3, the aim is to effective disposal of suspended sediment load or the bed loads, and it is called as the mean water training. It is the most important. It is the most important, and based upon how much sediments the river is carrying, how much it is depositing, right? Based upon this, the other two training works are decided. So first of all, as a irrigation engineer, you have to ensure that whatever sediments the moving water is carrying, you want to bring them down to your personal requirement or the permissible limit. And once you have constructed, you have taken into note the structures that need to be constructed. After that, only these fulfilling of the requirements come into picture. All right. So how these river training is achieved? So there are a lot of structures that are constructed to fulfill the river training work. The overall aim of the river training work is to ensure there is a ultimate stability. Now, if you look here, if we do not control the flood water, then the channel is unstable. If we do not ensure that the minimum water depth is there so that the channel can be navigable, proper waterway can be ensured. If we cannot do that, then again the channel is unstable. We cannot fulfill the purpose for which we have constructed the channel, or the structures are not fulfilling the required requirements. So that's why again it becomes kind of unstable. And here, if there is too much silting, too much scoring, then all the work that you have done will go to waste. So again, the stability of the channel is in question. So the overall aim of the river training work is to ensure the stability, and then we have the three different categories where each category targets a different parameter. So there are certain structures that are constructed that ensures the ultimate stability. The first is the marginal embankments of the leaf. The second is the guide banks. The third is the grounds, also called as spurs. Then we have artificial cutoffs, pitching of the bank, the provision of launching aprons, then we have pitching island, and then we have these certain miscellaneous methods by which this river training work can be achieved. Okay, so in the next lecture, we are going to discuss about these kind of structures. All right, so for this, we'll stop here as the basic introduction of the river training work. Again, point to be noted is in the river training work is the definition. Definition should always be accurate, as in when you are writing in any or you are giving in an interview, the terms should be included. Objective should be clear. The order should not be changed. So we have type 1, type 2, and type 3. So these should be at their respective orders, right? And type 2 and type 3 both deal with the training of the depth but have different aim. Type 3 is the most important. Okay, type 3 is the most important, and like it forms the basis for the other two, for other two to be laid upon. Okay, so this is all for this lecture for today, and in the next lecture we are going to discuss about each of these type of riveting works. Okay, so I hope the video lecture was clear to you. If so, like the video, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Post your views in the comment section, and if there is any doubt, also post your views in the comment section. And do if you feel that there is some improvement that can be done in the lecture, do let us know. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.